I moved into that rental house in Lorain, Ohio after a bad breakup. I needed space, and the place was cheap. It sat at the end of a quiet street, surrounded by woods. One floor, small yard, and not much else. It looked like the kind of house where nothing exciting would ever happen. That's what I wanted. The landlord was this quiet old guy. Didn't talk much, just said, "The plumbing's sensitive, and don't go messing with the attic or built-ins. Nothing good up there." I remember laughing when he said that, like it was some weird dad joke or local superstition. He didn't smile. The first few weeks were peaceful. I worked from home as a copywriter, rarely had visitors, and spent most nights with Netflix and frozen dinners. But one night, I dropped my phone while walking past the hallway cabinet. It bounced against the wood, and I noticed something odd. The cabinet wasn't flush with the wall. There was a narrow seam, like it had been pried open before. I crouched and gave it a knock. Hollow. Curiosity got the best of me. I grabbed a screwdriver and started working at the edge. The wood gave easily. Inside wasn't a shelf. It was a dark, square hole. A crawlspace about 3 feet wide, with a rusty old ladder disappearing down into pitch black. The weirdest part? This house wasn't listed as having a basement. I fetched my flashlight. The crawlspace went down about 10 feet and leveled out. The walls were dirt. Dry. Not damp like you'd expect. It didn't smell moldy. It smelled still. Like a tomb. I should have stopped there. But I was too damn curious. I climbed down. The bottom was solid earth. The space was low. I had a hunch to move around. There were old boards, maybe from crates stacked in one corner, and something that looked like a pile of clothes. I poked it with a flashlight. It collapsed into dust. Fabric, maybe? Or bones? It looked human-shaped, but I couldn't tell. Suddenly I felt it. A shift in the air behind me. I turned quickly, flashlight trembling, but there was nothing. I got out fast, sealed the cabinet with furniture in front of it. That night, I heard breathing. Low, raspy, and steady. It came from under the floor, beneath my bedroom. I sat up, heart racing. The sound wasn't loud, but it was unmistakable. Someone or something was just beneath me, breathing slowly, like they were asleep. I didn't sleep at all. In the morning, I tore open the cabinet again. The hole was still there. The air felt colder, deader. I shouted into it. "Hello?" Nothing. I decided not to go to work that day. I paced. I researched. I even tried calling the landlord, voicemail. That night, the breathing returned. But this time, it moved. I tracked it with my ears as it crawled beneath the living room, the hallway, stopping just under my bed. Then silence. I was frozen. Then at 3:12 a.m., a faint knock echoed from the floorboards. 1, 2, 3, like fingernails tapping wood. I sat in the corner of my room until sunrise. Day 3, I'd had enough. I called a contractor I found online, some handyman with no website, but good reviews. When he arrived, I explained everything. He didn't laugh, just nodded. He climbed down into the crawlspace with a headlamp and a GoPro. I waited upstairs, tense. After 5 minutes, I heard him shout, "Hey, you didn't say there was a second tunnel." My blood ran cold. "What second tunnel?" He didn't respond. 5 more minutes passed, then silence. I peeked in. The ladder was empty. I yelled his name over and over. No answer. I called 911. Police came, then fire and rescue. They found the crawl space, but no second tunnel. No sign of the contractor. Just the ladder and dust. When I showed them the guy's name and number, the dispatcher said no one with that license was registered. No contractor in the area by that name. They said I'd imagined it, maybe even faked it. I moved out a week later. Left the cabinet open, just in case someone else needed to know. That was 7 months ago. Some nights, when everything is quiet, I still hear breathing. And sometimes a knock. Always 3 taps. Always under the floor.
My mom got sick in 2021. Real sick. The kind where the hospital sends her home because there's nothing left to do but make her comfortable. So I quit my job in Birmingham, packed up, and moved back to her old farmhouse in rural Alabama. It wasn't much of a house. Built in the 1940s, creaky floors, drafty windows, and this long, narrow attic that ran over the length of the second floor. The kind of attic with those creepy wood planks and one hanging bulb that never fully lit the corners. Mom never talked about the attic. Just told me once as a kid, don't go up there. Ever. Back then, I thought it was just a way to keep me out of the wasps and asbestos. But after moving back, I started to wonder. The first week was quiet. I set up in my old room, and stayed up late keeping watch over Mom. She barely spoke anymore, just slept, coughed, and whispered sometimes in her dreams. The nurse came twice a week, and I handled the rest. On the 7th night, I heard it. A knock. It came from directly above my room. One knock. Then silence. I waited. Nothing. I figured it was wood settling. But then it came again. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. I went into the hallway and stared up at the attic entrance. The kind you pull down with a rope. I stood there, half daring myself to open it. But I didn't. I went back to bed. The next night, it happened again. This time at 2:14 a.m. I remember because I checked the clock right after. The same slow knocks. 3 of them. The third night, it was the same. 2:14 a.m. on the dot. That's when I got scared. Because wood doesn't creak on a schedule. I told myself I'd check it in the morning. But the next day, the attic door was already open. I didn't open it. The ladder was pulled down, fully extended. I stared at it, heart pounding. I even called the hospice nurse to ask if she'd been up there. She laughed, said she's terrified of attics. I climbed up slowly with a flashlight. Dust everywhere. Nothing unusual. Until I noticed the walls. One of the attic beams had deep scratches, like from fingernails or claws. Not 1 or 2. Dozens, overlapping. Some fresh, some deeper than others. All concentrated around one particular wall panel. I pressed on it. It gave way. Behind it was a crawl space, even tighter than the attic. And something inside that space. Something moved. I backed out fast. That night, Mom spoke clearly for the first time in weeks. I was giving her water when she looked at me, eyes wide, and said, "Don't answer the knocks." Not like I did. I froze. "Mom, what knocks?" She just stared at the ceiling and said, "It lives up there now, and it knows your name." That night at exactly 2:14 a.m., the knocking came again. 3 knocks. And then, something new. A voice. Faint. It said, "Let me in." I didn't move. Didn't speak. Just stared at the attic door from the hallway. It never opened. But the knocking kept coming. Every night. Same time. Then one night I snapped. I pulled the ladder down at 2:13 a.m. and climbed into the attic with a hammer and a flashlight. I shouted, "Who's up here?" Silence. Until the bulb above me flickered. And from the far end of the attic, something crawled out of the dark. I didn't wait. I climbed down, slammed the attic shut, and nailed it shut. I sealed it, bolted it. I slept downstairs with a knife for the next week. Mom died peacefully 2 weeks later. I moved out a month after the funeral. I told the next tenant, some young couple, to leave the attic alone. They laughed. Last I heard, they moved out after 6 days. Didn't say why. Left all their things behind. And now, sometimes, I wake up at 2:14 a.m. Even though I'm hundreds of miles away. And I swear, I still hear it knock.
Back in college, I had this roommate named Caleb. We weren't close friends, just two guys who needed cheap rent. We shared a 2-bedroom apartment just off campus in Eugene, Oregon. An old building with yellowed walls, stained carpets, and thin windows that barely kept the cold out. Caleb was quiet, clean, a little strange, maybe, but harmless. He never had guests, never drank, and kept to himself. He had this habit of locking his bedroom from the inside, even when he left. I figured maybe he had expensive gear or something. One weekend in October, he told me he was going home to visit his mom. Left Friday morning. I heard him grab his bag and shut the front door. That night, I had the apartment to myself. I played games, microwave pizza, and eventually fell asleep on the couch. Sometime after midnight, I heard something, a soft thump, then the sound of a door creaking open. I sat up, thinking maybe Caleb had come back early, but the lights were off. His door was closed. The front door was still locked. I checked anyway. His room? Still locked tight from the outside. No sign of him. I shrugged it off and went back to bed. The next morning, I found my bedroom door locked from the outside. Now, I never locked that door, especially not from the hallway. I don't even have a key for it. I rattled the handle, pounded on it, but it was stuck solid. I called Caleb, straight to voicemail. After a few minutes, I forced the window open and crawled out, walked around to the front, and re-entered the apartment. My door, still locked. I got a butter knife and jimmied it open. That night, I heard someone walking in the hallway. Slow, careful footsteps. I stepped out with a bat in hand, but there was no one there. Then, I noticed Caleb's door. It was slightly open. I know it was locked that morning. I peeked in. Room was spotless. Bed made. Nothing looked disturbed, except for his closet door. It was ajar, and I swear, I heard something breathe. I closed the door quietly and walked backward into my room. I messaged Caleb, "Hey man, you come back early." No reply. At 3:07 a.m., I woke up to a click. The sound of my bedroom door locking again. I jumped up, flipped on the light, locked from the outside. Again, I shouted, banged, even kicked. No answer. Suddenly, I heard something on the other side of the door, whispering, fast and low, like two people arguing in hushed voices. One sounded like Caleb. I yelled, "Hello?" The whispering stopped. Then a slow knock, right at eye level. I backed away and opened the window. Crawled out for the second night in a row. This time, when I came back around, Caleb's room was wide open, and on his bed was a folded piece of paper. It said, "He doesn't like being seen. Stop looking." I left the apartment that night and crashed at a friend's place. Caleb came back the next morning like nothing happened. He claimed he'd never returned early, said I was probably sleepwalking or something. But there were muddy footprints on the carpet and a handprint high up on my bedroom door. Too big to be mine. Or his. I moved out before the week was over. I don't know who or what locked that door, but something else lived in that apartment. And Caleb knew about it.
I was 24 when I moved into my first apartment alone. It wasn't anything fancy, just a one-bedroom in the outskirts of Austin, Texas. I'd just gotten promoted at work and wanted to prove I could live on my own. Independence felt exciting. The place was small, but clean. Carpeted floors, a second-floor unit, decent neighbors. I set up everything myself, built my bed frame, arranged the kitchen, even put up fake plants. It finally felt like mine. The first few weeks were normal. I worked, came home, watched crime documentaries in bed, slept like a rock. Until the dreams started. They weren't violent, just strange. I'd wake up breathless, feeling watched. I'd dream of someone standing at the foot of my bed, always out of focus. Then one night, the dream changed. In the dream, I dropped my phone off the side of the bed. And when I reached down, I felt a hand reach up to grab mine. I jolted awake, heart pounding, and instinctively checked under the bed. Nothing. Just my boxes and some dust bunnies. I convinced myself it was stress. I mean, I just started living alone. Maybe I was paranoid. But the next morning, when I went to grab my running shoes from under the bed, one of them was gone. I found it hours later, in the kitchen cabinet. I live alone. I tried to laugh it off, but the next night I set up my phone to record while I slept. Just to prove to myself there was nothing going on. The next morning, the video was still running. It showed me tossing and turning, nothing unusual. Until 3:16 a.m. That's when I saw the sheets on the edge of the bed lift slightly from underneath. Like a breeze, or fingers. I paused the footage, replayed it. Again and again. The movement was real. It was slow, subtle, but absolutely not from me. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I waited. At 3 a.m., I shut off all the lights and laid on my side, eyes wide open. I left my phone recording again, but this time I kept one earbud in, audio monitoring in real time. At exactly 3:14, I heard it. Breathing. It wasn't mine. It was faint. Wet. Like someone with a chest infection trying to stay quiet. I held my breath. The sound continued. And then, 3 slow knocks from inside the bed frame. I screamed. Jumped out. Turned every light on. I didn't call the police. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't think they'd believe me. Or maybe I didn't want them to find something. I left that apartment within the week. Told the landlord it was mold. Lost my deposit. But sometimes, when I visit friends and sleep on a mattress on the floor, I still wake up at 3:14. And I swear, I can hear breathing. Right beneath me.